the mystical experience, then he builds the theory, and then he gives us the intervallic system for the notes and keys, and then we have the monochord, and then the birth of classical music. So it's really amazing what you're saying. But about waves, you know those new headphones, George, that Sony has that apparently block out all of the outside noise, so you get perfect sound.
The expensive
They work
ones.
the same way. They just then they mirror the outside sounds, and they slam into each other and cancel each other out. So what the caller is saying is that if you have negative energy in you, then maybe you should slam the same information at itself to knock itself out. That's really interesting. I don't know. I mean, that would be something to experiment with. It's a great creative idea.
Well, let's go to Bridgeport, Connecticut. Patrick, you're on with David Sarita. Hey, Patrick.
Hi, how you doing? I once read a Hermetic text that says you can cleanse your aura with water, but it spoke of the water should be at 39 degrees when it was most magnetic. Can you say anything about the temperature of water and its cleansing process? And I'll hang up and listen off the air.
Okay. Has that come up at all, David?
Well, the temperature of water, I mean, they actually talk about this in Water, the Great Mystery. You know, when you get into the different levels of the pH values of water, and there are certain types of heat that kill the bad bacteria in the water and allow the pH levels to go up. So it does get into temperatures. So there's definitely a truth to what the caller is saying, but I don't want to try to answer that because I think it's over my head. But obviously, when temperature increases, magnetic fields weaken. So, you know, and water, of course, expands when it's heated and it contracts when it's cold. And when it expands, there's amazing pressure. And in fact, one of the most amazing little things you see is this sprouted seed bursting through, you know, the thick, heavy weight of the soil. And sometimes you even see trees bursting right through concrete sidewalks and streets because of the power of water and life, you know, moving through these forces. So temperature is definitely important. I don't actually know the answer to his question, though. So,
okay, let's go to Rochester, New York. We've got Sam, east of the Rockies. Sam, you're on with David.
Good morning, David. How are you? Good morning, gentlemen. I had a question for you about the restructured water. With the one caller that called from Phoenix, I'm just wondering how it would be with, will it, once it reaches its advanced stages, will it help with longevity of life if it's ingested by human beings on a daily basis, like regular tap water? And also, would this be like, quote unquote, like, you know, once it's at its peak, would that make, you know, people like, you know, like, I don't know, I don't want to say Superman or whatever. I mean, it's a very interesting concept that they're coming up with. I mean, if they're doing stuff with kidneys and livers, the way that this guy's saying, you know, then it would definitely either, you know, hit longevity-wise and everything like that.
Well, that's a great question. I predicted that the sound of the sun would restructure water to the highest value because the sun is the master of the solar system. And when I made that prediction, a lot of people didn't believe me. And when the data came in, it looks like it concurred. So I would say that drinking, and I've had experiences from drinking, I charged my water. In fact, I drank 2 glasses of water today. I put the water in front of my speakers, and you have to have speakers that go at least 20 to 20,000 hertz. You know, you don't want to use cheap little computer speakers. And you beam your water with the sound for, you know, a couple of minutes, and then drink it right away. I have already noticed things that have happened to me, but, you know, they almost sound, it's a very difficult thing to talk about. You know, I don't think that anybody who drinks it is going to have the same experiences, but I think you should try it and experiment with it. It makes sense because if water restructures everything to a harmony, and a harmony is when any more than 2 or more vibrations relate to each other in an architecture that produces basically a beautiful sound or symphony, you're definitely going to bring things more into order. Most studies done into the frequencies of cancer viruses and you know, other diseases in the body, there is a disharmonic. There's a disharmonic energetic. So when you bring your system, and actually I forgot to mention this, Konstantin Korotkov invented this camera that can see all of our 7 energy centers or chakras in 3 dimensions. In fact, it can see how much energy in amplitude is coming out of all the 7 energy centers, from the base of the spine, the sex center, the belly center, which is our life center, the adrenal glands, which is in the sternum area in the liver, the heart, the throat, communication, the inner eye, and the top of the head, right? Well, when they exposed a person to the sound of the sun, interesting enough, the amplitude of all of the chakras went way down to almost nothing, and the heart got big, huge. So the sound of the sun seems to activate the heart center and shut down all of the other centers, which is really an amazing phenomenon for the researchers to see. Another interesting thing is the heart chakra is symbolized by the color green, and our sun produces more green light than any other color of light in the rainbow spectrum. So in amplitude, the sun is producing more green light, which is symbolic of the heart center. So there may be a correlation there as to why the sound of the sun activates the heart center more than any other chakra. So there could be something there. But, experiments need to be done in this. I'm not going to claim that the sound of the sun is the elixir of longevity, or is the holy grail for eternal life. I mean, I'm not going to say that, but it makes sense scientifically that if you put things that are harmonics in your system, in your biology, in your body, you should have an increase in at least in life energy. I mean, I can't claim things like that.
Let's come back and take final phone calls with our special guest tonight, David Sereda, right here on Coast to Coast AM. Well, on our next program, as the week continues, Mark Seifert joins us. He's a psychology professor, expert on Tesla, and he's going to combine Einstein's theory of relativity to some of Tesla's theories as well. That'll be our next Coast to Coast show. David, does this universal memory system, is it much like what Lynn McTaggart talks about, the field and what I've always called the wireless internet?
Yeah, it really is. The field is what the information propagates through. And I believe there isn't just one field. There are these 9 levels of the field. And each higher ring, if you will, rules and presides over all the rings beneath it or in lower vibration to it. So there's a sense of oneness or all connectivity in each of these fields, but the higher and higher fields have higher and higher informational systems. You see the 9 levels of the angels, and if you look at all the different levels of the angelic kingdom, 9 symphonies for Beethoven, you see 6 levels of samadhi and 3 nirvanas. When you go through all the world religions, you'll see evidence of these like Dante goes through the 9 levels of the Paradiso, so the 9 levels of heaven. The number keeps showing up. It's everywhere. To me, there isn't just one superfield like Lynn McTaggart proposes. But what I love about her work is that she's showing scientific evidence of it. Einstein said that there's no room in this new physics for both the field and matter, for the field is the only reality or the greatest reality. So now we're starting to see the proof that everything is communicating with everything, and that is a sense of oneness. But I think there are higher levels of information that are only accessible to consciousness that evolves into these higher dimensions of enlightenment.
All right, let's go take final calls. Mike in Vancouver in Canada. Go ahead, Mike. Michael, you there?
I'm here.
Okay,
Hello?
Great. Go ahead.
I've got something to share here. Just let me download you guys. When you talk about restructuring water, I do that also, but I do it with dowsing programs. Now, to hold a dowsing program, I use orgone generators. I also use the ley lines and grid lines and a channeling that I do that was activated in the harmonic concordance. Just recently, I started making orgone generators in the shape of hearts, green hearts, to put over the heart. So when I go into channeling, I activate people's heart centers. I also work with the tribal harmonic scene up here. They are what I call musical alchemists, DJs. Through the sound and the VJs, the visuals, and geometry, I work with the crystal grids. I found crystals up in mountains, and there was a river that got polluted by a train that went